Let me tell you something most people will never say out loud. Comfort is a trap. It looks like safety, it feels like rest, but if you stay there too long, it becomes your cage. Every person who has ever accomplished anything, great or very, leader, innovator, warrior, creator, had to learn the same lesson. Growth and comfort do not live in the same place. You cannot become more while clinging to what's easy. You want to level up your life? You want real change, real freedom, real power? Force yourself to be uncomfortable. I'm not talking about pain for pain's sake. I'm not saying hustle until you burn out. I'm saying put yourself in the places that make your heart race. Say yes to the things that scare you. Walk into the room where you feel unqualified. Speak when your voice shakes. Try even when failure feels likely. That's where the magic is. Comfort is one of the most deceptive forces in life. It feels good. It feels familiar. It tells you you're okay right where you are. It convinces you to stay still, to play it safe, to wait just a little longer before taking the leap. But what it rarely reveals is the cost, because comfort has a price, and it's almost always your potential. What begins as a small act of self-preservation becomes a lifestyle of avoidance. The more you feed it, the stronger it becomes, until one day you look around and realize you've stopped growing, stopped pushing, stopped truly living. The comfort zone isn't just a place, it's a mindset. It tells you to repeat what's easy. It whispers that trying something new is risky, that failure would be humiliating, that you lose what little control you think you have. So you stay quiet when you should speak. You say no to opportunities that would stretch you. You delay the dream, the project, the move, telling yourself that you'll do it when you feel more prepared. But preparation isn't what's missing. What's missing is the willingness to endure the discomfort that growth demands. The trap of comfort is that it disguises itself as peace. It gives you just enough satisfaction to stop striving, just enough ease to settle. But that peace is shallow. Deep down, you know something isn't right. You know there's more to you than this routine, more inside you than what you're currently expressing. The discomfort you avoid is the exact pressure needed to evolve. Just like muscles grow through resistance, your character, your confidence, your capability all expand through challenge. The world has conditioned people to seek comfort. Everything is designed for convenience, speed, and immediate gratification. But greatness is built in the opposite direction. It's built through friction, through tension, through pushing yourself past the point where most people quit. The people who break records, change the world, or simply live fully aligned lives, they're not addicted to comfort. They've learned how to get comfortable being uncomfortable. They don't fear the challenge, they run toward it because they understand that comfort never gave them anything worth remembering. Staying comfortable might protect you from short-term pain, but it guarantees long-term regret. The things that stretch you, scare you, and challenge your limits are the things that reveal who you really are. When you keep choosing what's easy, you never discover what you're capable of. The dream doesn't die because it's impossible. It dies because you convinced yourself that being comfortable was more important than becoming who you were meant to be. Comfort feels like control, but it's actually stagnation in disguise. It says stay here where it's safe, but in doing so, it traps your potential in a loop of sameness. The mind stops expanding, creativity shrinks, energy fades. Nothing truly great was ever created inside someone's comfort zone. The breakthrough, the transformation, the real power, those things live just beyond the edge of what feels easy. Comfort may feel good in the moment, but it slowly dulls your fire. Discomfort isn't random. It's not just an unpleasant feeling to avoid, it's a guidepost. It points directly to the areas in life where growth is possible, where untapped potential lives, where change is necessary. Most people misunderstand discomfort. They treat it as a warning, a reason to stop, a signal that something is wrong. But discomfort is more often a sign that you're heading in the right direction. It doesn't show up when you're going through the motions. It shows up when you're doing something new, something that requires effort, courage, or vulnerability. That's why it's so important to learn how to read it correctly. When you feel uncomfortable about speaking up, it means your voice is ready to grow. When you feel nervous about trying something new, it means you're stepping beyond the limits of who you've been. When you feel resistance before making a big move, it's not a reason to turn back. It's proof that what you're about to do matters. Discomfort is a compass, pointing directly to the areas of your life that hold the most possibility. Instead of backing away from it, the real challenge is to lean in, to use that discomfort as a tool for direction. People often ask how to know whether they're on the right path, whether they're doing what they're meant to do. The answer, more often than not, is to look for what makes them nervous, what stirs anxiety, what they avoid out of fear. These are the exact areas that signal transformation. Growth doesn't show up as ease. It doesn't come wrapped in convenience. It shows up as challenge, as friction, as the stretching of identity. It pushes you to choose between who you've been and who you're becoming. And the moment you stop running from that pressure, the moment you choose to step toward it rather than away, everything starts to shift. There's a part of you that already knows this. You felt it in moments when you took a risk and felt more alive than ever. You've experienced the clarity that comes from surviving something difficult, the strength that shows up only after you've been tested. That's not a coincidence. It's the effect of leaning into the discomfort rather than retreating from it. Every time you do, you become stronger, wiser, more capable. You begin to trust yourself in ways you never did before, not because life got easier, but because you stopped letting discomfort be the reason you quit. The truth is, discomfort isn't your enemy, it's your edge. It's the boundary between the life you have and the life you want. If you avoid it, you stay exactly where you are. If you embrace it, you unlock doors you didn't even know existed. Discomfort doesn't mean stop. It means pay attention. It means keep going. It means you're alive, in motion, doing something real. The more you treat discomfort like a signal to lean in, the more growth becomes your default setting. You stop fearing the stretch and start chasing it. The idea of feeling ready is one of the biggest illusions people buy into. They believe they have to wait for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect version of themselves to appear before they take action. But that moment never comes. Readiness doesn't arrive like a package dropped at your door. It's built in the doing. You don't feel ready and then act. You act, and through that action you become ready. Waiting to feel prepared is just another form of procrastination dressed up as wisdom. It's a stall tactic disguised as caution, and it keeps more people stuck than fear itself. Think about the moments in your life when you truly grew. Not the ones that were planned or calculated, but the ones that required you to leap without knowing where you'd land. Those were the moments that shaped you. And yet still the mind tells you that the next challenge will be different, that this time you need to be more ready, more skilled, more confident before you make your move. That kind of thinking is a lie. It's comfort trying to keep you from evolving. People often wait for a moment of certainty, a surge of confidence, a sign from the universe before they start. But the truth is, you don't need a sign. You need a decision. A decision to move even when your hands are shaking. A decision to show up even when your voice is trembling. Confidence is not the starting point, it's the result. It's the muscle you build by acting while afraid, by standing tall when everything in you wants to shrink. You build belief in yourself by stacking small moments of courage, not by waiting for the fear to disappear. When you take action before you feel ready, something powerful happens. You begin to override the old patterns that told you you couldn't. You break the cycle of hesitation. You start to prove to yourself that you are capable, not in theory, but in reality. The more you do this, the less you rely on the illusion of readiness, and the more you lean into momentum. Action creates clarity. It teaches you what works, what doesn't, and what you need to adjust. But you only gain that insight by doing, not by planning endlessly or rehearsing success in your head. The world doesn't wait for those who hesitate. Opportunities don't stick around forever, and life has a way of rewarding those who leap even when they're unsure. There is strength in uncertainty if you're willing to walk through it. You learn faster, grow faster, and evolve faster when you stop waiting and start doing. The people who rise aren't necessarily the smartest, the most talented, or the most confident. They're simply the ones who decided that waiting was no longer an option. They chose to show up without permission, to bet on themselves without guarantees. They understood that becoming ready is a result of movement, not stillness. And they trusted that courage would catch up to their commitment. Doing the hard thing, especially when you don't feel ready, is the very act that transforms who you are. Fear and resistance always show up when you're on the edge of something important. Your mind will come up with excuses, distractions, even rational reasons to back down, but growth lives on the other side of that resistance. The longer you wait, the louder fear becomes. The more you hesitate, the more power you give it. That's why it's not about waiting until the fear goes away, it's about acting in the middle of it. Moving forward while your heart races, while doubt screams in your head, while every part of you wants to stay still, that's the work. Courage is not a feeling, it's a decision, a choice to move anyway, a choice to speak up when silence feels safer, a choice to take the first step with no guarantee of success. The more you do this, the more you build a different kind of confidence, not the kind that comes from knowing you'll win, but the kind that comes from knowing you can handle whatever happens. That's real power. The ability to move even when you're scared. The willingness to take action while discomfort is still in the room. Every time you do the hard thing, you stretch your limits. You challenge the voice in your head that says, I can't. You prove to yourself that fear doesn't control you. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes. Not because the fear disappears, but because you've trained yourself to act anyway. You build resilience by repetition. You teach your nervous system that discomfort is survivable. You shift from being someone who avoids fear to someone who uses it as fuel. People often think bravery means being fearless. But that's not true. Bravery is about showing up with the fear, carrying it with you, not letting it steer. The most courageous people in the world still feel fear. They've just learned not to wait for it to vanish. They've built the habit of action, the muscle of momentum. They've decided that progress matters more than perfection, that trying and failing is better than doing nothing at all. There's a freedom that comes from doing what scares you, a clarity that only shows up after the leap. Most of the time, the fear isn't about the task itself, it's about what you think it means about you. That if you fail, you're a failure. That if you mess up, you're not good enough. But action proves otherwise. Action separates identity from outcome. It reminds you that courage isn't about the result, it's about the attempt. Every time you act despite fear, you're not just changing your circumstances, you're reshaping who you believe you are. Doing the hard thing doesn't mean diving into chaos without a plan. It means not letting fear be the deciding factor. It means taking the step, even if it's small. Starting the conversation, even if it's awkward. Trying the thing, even if you're unsure. Because the truth is, if you wait until you're fearless, you'll wait forever. The only way through fear is forward. Discomfort is the training ground for discipline. It's where your real character is built, not when everything is smooth, but when your body says no, and your mind tells you to stop, and you choose to keep going anyway. That moment when everything inside you wants to retreat, but you take one more step forward, is where discipline is forged. It's not about how motivated you feel in the moment. It's about the choice to do what needs to be done regardless of how you feel. Discipline thrives in discomfort because that's where consistency is tested and resilience is developed. Most people think discipline is about being strict or hard on yourself, but it's really about building trust. Trust in your ability to show up. Trust in your ability to follow through. That trust is built not in easy moments, but in the uncomfortable ones, the early mornings when the bed feels warm, the workouts when your muscles are screaming, the hours of focus when distraction would be so much easier. Every time you push through those moments, you send a message to yourself that your goals matter more than your mood, that your future matters more than your temporary feelings. Discipline doesn't mean you won't feel resistance. It means you act in spite of it. It means that when your excuses rise up, when comfort calls your name, you've trained yourself to keep moving. You've built the habit of choosing what's right over what's easy. That habit is a superpower. It separates those who dream from those who execute. The uncomfortable truth is that most of the results people want, whether it's physical transformation, financial freedom, or inner peace, are on the other side of repeated, disciplined action. Not for a day, not for a week, but over and over, especially when you don't feel like it. The more you expose yourself to controlled discomfort, the more you expand your capacity. What once felt hard becomes normal. What once overwhelmed you becomes part of your routine. You increase your threshold for pressure, for stress, for uncertainty, not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. Discomfort becomes familiar, even welcomed, because you know it's shaping something inside you that nothing else can. And it's not just physical discipline, it's mental, it's emotional, it's waking up with purpose even when life feels heavy. It's controlling your reactions in situations where anger or fear would be easier. It's choosing focus when distraction is everywhere. Discipline turns chaos into clarity. It gives you structure when motivation fades. It gives you strength when inspiration is gone. Building discipline through discomfort creates a version of you that can't be rattled by small setbacks. It creates internal order when external situations are out of your control. It gives you an edge, not just over your environment, but over your own doubts and weaknesses. When discomfort becomes your training ground, life stops being something that happens to you and starts being something you shape day by day, choice by choice. Choosing who you are is the most powerful decision you can make. Fear tries to convince you that you are a victim of your circumstances, that you are defined by your past, that your identity is fixed and unchangeable. But the truth is, identity is not something you find, it's something you build. Every day, in every choice, you are either reinforcing the version of yourself shaped by fear or constructing the version shaped by intention, by courage, by vision. You don't need to wait for permission. You don't need more time. What you need is to decide. When you wake up and declare who you are, when you stop reacting to fear and start creating from conviction, everything shifts. Most people live reactively. They let fear choose for them. Fear says, stay quiet, and they obey. Fear says, don't try, and they back down. But when you decide who you are deeply, consciously you take the power back. You stop waiting to feel brave. You stop hoping for the right circumstances. You step into an identity that leads your behavior rather than follows your emotions. That identity has to be rooted in action. It's not about affirmations whispered into a mirror without follow-through. It's about aligning your decisions with the person you claim to be. If you say you are disciplined, then you do the hard thing even when you're tired. If you say you are confident, you walk into the room like your presence matters. If you say you are resilient, then you keep going even when everything in you wants to quit. The gap between who you say you are and how you show up determines how much power fear has over your life. Choosing who you are also means letting go of outdated labels. You are not your failures. You are not the story someone else handed you. You are not your childhood, your past mistakes, or the opinions of people who don't even know your heart. You get to rewrite it. You get to say, starting today, I am someone who shows up differently. Someone who acts boldly. Someone who refuses to let fear dictate the rhythm of their life. That choice is available at any moment, but it takes honesty and courage to make it. This isn't about pretending, it's about deciding. The more you act like the person you've chosen to be, The more evidence you gather that it's who you truly are, the voice of fear will still whisper. Doubt will still try to creep in. But your identity becomes an anchor, something you return to no matter how loud the noise becomes. And over time, fear loses its grip, not because it disappears, but because it can no longer sway someone who knows exactly who they are. When you choose your identity with intention, you rise above old patterns. You stop being someone who's merely surviving and become someone who's building, someone who's owning, someone who's rising. You start to look at challenges differently because you are no longer the same person who used to run from them. You're someone who meets them head on,